Hello and welcome everyone, this is Type V3 and today we're taking a look at Bandai's Chogokin AEGIS. This of course is the fan favorite character from Persona 3 video game series, and she is essentially a humanoid robot who was designed to defeat shadows under the dark hour. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go play the game, it's great. But before we go any further, let's check out the packaging. Now honestly, I was a bit disappointed to see this rather simple box for such a high-end toy, but I guess it's really about the product. Speaking of which, when you open up the toy, there's this really nice nod that the creators did here to package Aegis with her sleep mode face on to sort of assume as if she hasn't been activated until you open the packaging. It's a super nice nod, and I really appreciated small things like this. But let's get a real face on. Swapping Aegis' face is actually a really simple job. It consists of 3 pieces, which include the hair and the front face, or the face itself, and of course the headband, which you don't have to take off, but the instructions say do to take it off because it sort of reveals everything. And then from here, all you gotta do is place the new face onto the headband, like so, and then place the front hairpiece onto the face. And then when the whole thing is assembled, you can put the whole thing back onto the head. And now Aegis has her eyes open. And it's a very soulless expression, this one, but it is the default face to use. At first glance, Aegis just seems to carry a standard female body, but upon closer inspection, she definitely has more mechanical and steampunk-influenced designs, such as no feet or the fact that her limbs are all connected by metal plates. The color palette itself is very neutral, except for the reds and the gold, which tend to accent everything, and I absolutely love it. Another thing, too, is that her uniform, although seems to be perfectly smooth, in fact isn't, and I love how they put in little wrinkles and divots in the design. It's just so much extra care and work that went into this, and I absolutely appreciate the way it turned out. Now, poseability is probably the most important thing about this figure, so to start things off, she does have a ball-jointed neck, as well as a hinge at the bottom of her neck to go back and forth, as well as use this hinge on her top of her head. Each of the limbs are connected on these die-cast metal joints, which is basically the sole reason why you buy Chogokins, for the die-cast metal. And this part here is on a separate hinge, so that when she raises her arm, the shoulder plate doesn't get in the way, or at least it moves to conform to their pose. There is an elbow joint, and there's a tight swivel there, a forearm swivel here, wrist swivel, and of course a little bit of movement in the wrist. There is a very nice, I guess, upper torso ball joint there, and like I said earlier, really nice hips. These hips are actually connected onto on a single piece in the middle of the bottom of the torso here, so they kind of move with one another. A little bit of a thigh swivel there. There is a really well done knee, and you'll see there's no foot. And that also means that this figure can't stand on her own, so you always have to keep her with the stand. Not really an issue, but sometimes it does limit some posing options. Now, the base of the stand is well done, but it is absolutely huge, which also means, though, that you put her in any pose and there won't be any weight counterbalance issues or whatnot. However, if you don't want to use the base, you can remove the stand from it, attach it to a white piece that's also included, and then plug it into the back of Aegis once more. And this way, you can get her to stand in sort of a tripod formation. Now, of course, this does have its limitations. It does mean that she has to have some wide-legged stances in order for this to balance, but it is nice that they did include this feature here. Moving over to her hands, she comes with the open palms that you have seen up until this point, as well as some really small little fists that are kind of cute, and she comes with these very flex, straight out open palms as well. Her last set of hands, of course, are her pistol fingers, and to get these on, you just simply pull off the hand and replace it with the one you want. And to go along with this set of hands is the ammunition barrel that puts right onto the wrist. So you just plug that in and swivel it around so it gets into the correct order, and now you have Aegis with her pistol fingers along with the ammunition magazine, or the barrels that basically hold the ammo. So these are really cool and definitely my favorite hands of the bunch. Now, looking at her faces, this is probably the section of the toy that most people are going to be disappointed with. It's not that they're done with bad quality or anything, it's just that they all lack any sort of emotion and they look very robotic, which, in fairness, this is a robot, so I don't really know if that's really too much of a complaint. I don't know, they work well for me. Now, using all her different faces and hands and extremely well done articulation, you can get Aegis in some pretty cool poses. In fact, you can get her looking very dangerous and intimidating, and this is kind of surprising considering that she has a very gentle and harmless look about her. However, no matter how dangerous you make her look, she always tends to look rather graceful, and I kind of like that little aspect about this figure. Another thing, too, is that she's also quite large. Standing at about just over 6 inches tall, she will tower pretty much against almost any other Figma or Reveltech figure out there, and I kind of like the extra size here. Now, the last thing Aegis comes with are her set of weapons, and by pulling off the wrist entirely, you can then replace it with one of 3 weapons. The first being this rifle, and it's definitely a cool looking rifle. I like how it's just really huge, giant scope, nice big magazine clip at the bottom, and it's a good look for her. As well, she also has her own style of Metroid style cannon, so this looks really cool as well. I like how this one turned out. Um, Definitely awesome. You can definitely pretend like she's Samus Aran. But the last one is probably the most interesting one, and that is the Rocket Punch. And you just throw this on, quite simply like that, and it's, like I said, a Rocket Punch. The cool thing about this one, however, is it's on a spring-loaded gimmick, so when you push the trigger, it launches. So that is all of Aegis's 3 weapons, and definitely all of them are very cool and very well detailed. I think the best thing about these weapons, though, is the fact that you get so many of them. If you include the finger pistols, that means that Aegis has potentially 4 different armaments to choose from, and that adds a lot of variety to the figure as a whole. Overall, I think that Chogokin AEGIS is the best representation of the character currently available, but it is not without its flaws. I do wish it had some heel spurs instead of that weird tripod setup, and I do wish there was some sort of elegant way to store all of her accessories, because with all these hands, weapons, and faces, I just would like some sort of easy way to access them. Speaking of faces, I do wish that her face had a little bit more expression in them, and that maybe she had some other more varied faces, because as it stands right now, they are a bit boring and a lot of them seem the same, and I don't want one face that's looking to the side. But again, these are all small little nitpicky things that definitely can be overlooked, and I totally recommend this item if you can get it. Anyways, thanks for watching. This has been Type B3. Catch you next time.